G'day everyone, DARQs here. Before I begin this video, I just wanted to start with a few announcements. For those of you who don't follow me on Twitter or aren't part of the 2DX community page on Facebook, I've started an Ask FM account for anyone who has any specific questions about 2DX. Of course, you can always message me here in the comments sections, but more often than not, I'm a big idiot and forget to reply to one or two of them. However, I check my Ask FM on almost an hourly basis, and if you ask me a question there, it's likely you'll get a pretty quick response. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to check out my Twitter and join the 2DX community on Facebook, named 2DX Players International. I'll link all of these at the end of the video, so be sure to check them out. But for now, let's keep on moving with today's 2DX discussion. So last video I asked people to tell me how hard they hit the keys. Do you try and hit as hard as you can, or do you try and conserve stamina and hit lightly? This is the main focus of today's video. Keytaps and you, the guide to good timing. Once again, I wanted to start this video with a little bit of a story of when I was in Japan. When I first started playing again, I never really focused on how I was pressing the buttons. I presumed my technique was fine and just went about playing like I normally would. However, after meeting JDR, who's an absolute monster at timing, I noticed something peculiar while he was playing. The whole cabinet was pretty much shaking, and I said, holy crap, why is that happening? But it all made sense once I observed his keytaps. JDR hits the keys hard. Very hard. I saw many amazing players and former top rankers within Toyohashi such as JDR, Ok and Zeno, who to no surprise, all had the same trait in common. From this fact, I wanted to know that you can usually tell a good player apart from a bad player solely by the sound of their key presses. If someone is really struggling with the chart, it's very obvious in their keytaps that they sound quite incongruent and messy, whereas a player who can comprehend a chart well will have a nice clean rhythm coming off the keys when they play. The key factor which brings about this clean sound is the method and approach which players use to hit the keys. You might think that it's easy and just say, well, all I have to do is hit harder. However, doing this without some foresight might cause you to flail around on the keys like a person playing DDR no bar and end up injuring yourself. Much like other aspects in the game which I've discussed, keytaps are affected by a number of factors. So in this video I wanted to cover some of the ways in which you can get your keytaps to sound cleaner, and in turn lead you to get better timing and hopefully some significant score increases. The best advice I ever received on this topic came from Toshio when Phoenix and I met him in Tokyo. As I covered in my video about meeting Toshio, we were both astounded by the sound of his key presses, and he even stated that of all the ranking players, he probably hits the hardest. Because of this, Phoenix asked Toshio how he managed to achieve such a clean sound with his clicks, and Toshio then rambled on for about an hour explaining this process, which I'll try and sum up relatively quickly. Now, I'll be using a lot of terms which might be complicated for some people, so if you haven't already, make sure you pause this video and go and find my video guide to 2DX terminology. Seriously, go do it now. Right, all watched up? Great, let's get started. To begin with, we have to observe the relationship between songs such as One More Lovely and 5.1.1. Now, what do these two songs have in common? One More Lovely is a 200 BPM song and 5.1.1 is a 101 BPM song. When you divide One More Lovely's BPM by 2, it gives you exactly 100, which is roughly the same as the BPM of 5.1.1. What this means is that every time that you hit an 8th note in One More Lovely, you're essentially hitting a 16th note in 5.1.1. By this logic, perceptually, you should be hitting the 16th notes in 5.1.1 as hard and accurately as you would hit something like the majority of One More Lovely's 8th note sections. Basically, that feel of hitting slow 16ths as 8th notes is the key to getting your clicks to sound cleaner and more accurate. So just like my last video talking about BPMs, all you have to do is apply this concept to songs progressively with higher BPMs. So once again, taking a 110 BPM song, you simply apply this principle and try and hit the notes as if they were fast 8s at 220 BPM instead. Once you're comfortable doing this, you keep working up from 110 to 120, 120 to 130, and so on. Most 10th then level players should be able to hit most 16ths in a 130 BPM song as if they're hitting 8th notes at 260 BPM. It's worth noting that most people can only apply this principle up to around the 140 BPM mark, or possibly the 150. Toshio went on to explain that this is the main reason why Tanman is so incredibly good at playing songs with 12th notes, as he merely perceives each note as an 8th and is able to just slap through the whole song as if he's playing something like Crossroads. He also mentioned that while progressing up the BPM curve with keytaps, you should always keep in mind how consistent the clicks are. So the basic principle is if you have very clean keytaps on 8th notes, then you should have the same kind of clean sound come off the keys for 16th streams as well. See, what you want to do is not only try and hit the keys hard, but also approach each pattern in a way that makes the keytaps sound consistent. Now, how is this achieved? One aspect of technique which can contribute to adding depth to your key sounds is lifting. When I started teaching one of my girlfriends how to play the game, I couldn't help but notice that they were resting their hands on top of the keys and simply pushing down the button when the note came up without any prior elevation. When I saw this, I explained to her that lifting your hands up before you press actually helps you to hit accurately compared to pressing a key without it. This results in a cleaner tap sound, which also helps you with timing. Additionally, the majority of the force being generated comes from the forearm and not so much the wrist, which results in building up your stamina as well as preventing potential injuries. This simple piece of advice saw an almost instant increase in that person's scores, and I wanted to use this to illustrate that lifting is an important aspect of key presses, which will result in both cleaner key taps and greater accuracy. Now, this being said, simply applying the lifting approach will prove difficult as songs start becoming progressively harder. In this circumstance, keeping clean key taps will ultimately come down to your technique. To support this, I wanted to point out that there is a significantly different approach to how skilled players will tackle easier songs compared to difficult songs. Let's take DJ Rare for example. In very difficult songs, he plays a static playstyle and wrist scratches. However, this is only when the chart density reaches a point where doing fast transitions would effectively losing points. By using wrist scratching on songs with high density, he's able to focus solely on the keys while whiffling the turntable, which ultimately leads to better comboing and scoring. However, for easy songs, he's told me on multiple occasions that he actually swaps back to a more freeform technique, and pinky scratches, as the transitions result in greater accuracy than wrist scratching. You also see this in some of the top ranker videos, when players will usually hit relatively freeform for easier sections of the chart, but when things start becoming denser, we'll quickly swap to a more static technique. It's also worth noting that when you start reaching the higher densities, it's obvious that you can't lift nearly as much as easier songs. However, keeping in mind that feeling of accuracy can significantly alter the way in which you perceive and approach charts. This is also the main reason why I suggest for people to go back to level 10 and consolidate on timing as opposed to trying to learn how to time through bashing your head against the level 12 wall. Keeping these techniques in mind while playing easier songs is how you can develop a feeling for how to time correctly and begin trying to apply that percept to denser patterns. Although it's not possible to apply all of these principles directly to every song, it's still the most beneficial approach for timing, which a lot of high-level players have taken or are undertaking in order to continue improving. It really is just a case of keeping these concepts in mind and trying to follow the rhythms with the aim to tap them out cleanly through the use of proper technique to train and build up that feeling of accuracy. I suppose at the end of the day, it's safe to say that all good key taps stem from how you feel the beat. So that's it for this 2DX discussion, and thank you very much for watching. My next video is going to cover a huge topic: random. Do you use random? What is your opinion on it? Do you think it's cheating? As I said at the start of the video, I've also linked my Twitter, AskFM, and the Facebook group, so check the links in the description and click the annotations below. Check out some of the other videos that I've made, and don't forget to hit the like or subscribe button. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next 2DX discussion video. Bye bye for now.